Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It is 5:07. Good morning. Thanks for tuning into O'Connor and Company. What a busy. So here's how I know it's a busy day, and we've got a lot to get to. We were literally seconds away from that red light going on, Bethany Mandel, and we're still sort of discussing what to start with. Because where do you start with
the red light is on?
The red light is
on.
on.
Am I on air right now?
Well,
shoot.
You are.
You
are. That's Bethany Mandel. On this beautiful Thursday morning, the 15th. We're halfway through January already. This is what happens. These years fly by.
Shoot. It was my stepfather's birthday yesterday. I forgot to say happy birthday. Oh,
birthday to Bethany's stepfather.
Happy birthday, Sal.
6:35. Hans von Spakovsky is going to join us. He now at Advancing American Freedom, but he's going to be talking to us about yesterday's Supreme Court decision. Didn't get a lot of attention, and whenever a Supreme Court decision doesn't get attention, it means it's really good for conservatives and the rule of law. It has to do with election fraud, and it could be a game changer. 7:05, Mignon Houston, deputy spokesperson for the State Department. A lot going on internationally, and especially with Iran. We'll talk to her about that. Then at 7:35, Patrice Onwuka, our own pal here on WMAL's O'Connor and Company, because she and her son had a bit of a star turn in the Oval Office with the president yesterday, and it's gone viral. This moment between Donald Trump and Patrice's first grader son is all over the place, and it's amazing. So we're going to talk about that experience. And then at 8:05, Katie McFarland. We'll find out what's going on with Iran. Bethany, you were saying that it looked like, from what you were watching last night, it looked like President Trump was sort of moments away from giving the order for a strike and then pulled back. That's how you're reading the tea leaves?
That is how I'm reading the tea leaves. I think that he was concerned that it would lead to wider engagement with American forces in the area, and I think that he just decided not to do it. He kind of walked back a little bit the bellicoseness of his statements and said, well, they've promised to stop killing the protesters because, I mean, thousands of people have been killed. Between 2,000 and 10,000 are the numbers that I'm seeing that are reliable. And so he said, they've promised to stop killing the protesters. So we'll see. But, I mean, yesterday it really looked like we were just about to start
because of the airspace calls and all anyone who's working in the region has been called home. The State Department's been, like I said, we're going to speak with deputy spokesperson for the State Department about that, and also about a huge move from the State Department. Over 100,000 visas have been revoked in this country. We'll get to all that coming up. I want to draw your attention, though, to a great op-ed I read yesterday, Bethany, from Commentary magazine by this guy Seth Mandel. I don't know if you're familiar with his work.
I am familiar with the children he has produced with me. His work.
I don't know if I would call that work, but okay. Maybe you guys do it different.
It's 5 a.m., Larry.
Seth had a fantastic op-ed yesterday at Commentary, and it speaks directly to Kathy Hochul. And he picked up on something that I've noticed, but I haven't been able to. This is my favorite op-eds or my favorite columns out there are when somebody who thinks very similar to me can find something and expand on an idea that was there in my head, but I never put it out there. And he did, and he did it very well. Let me jump in here real fast. In 2026, we'll take steps to – this is a quote, by the way. In 2026, we'll take steps to protect our houses of worship against the rising tide of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. New York has always invested $130 million to better secure these sacred spaces, but clearly much more has to be done. Now, that's a quote from Kathy Hochul. I believe it's her State of the State address there in New York. And you heard what she said there. She's really, really taking steps to protect houses of worship against the rising tide of anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. Now, Seth Mandel picks up on it. Notice how easy it was for Hochul to come up with an example of anti-Semitic harassment at synagogues. In fact, Hochul had planned to propose these new regulations before the recent We Support Hamas demonstrations at a shul in Queens. There was a psychotic mob at Park East Synagogue in November, which the new mayor, Zohar Mamdani, justified. In between then and the Hamas rally, violent incursions of synagogues took place outside New York, too. At a synagogue in Los Angeles. Anti-Semitic protesters broke in and smashed things up during an event. Then Mississippi's largest synagogue, the same one firebombed by the Ku Klux Klan during the Civil Rights era, was burned to the ground. Whoops, my page just jumped.
By a man who claims he was acting against the synagogue of Satan. And then a few days later, the remains of a California synagogue destroyed in last year's wildfires was vandalized. And that's just in the last 6 weeks.
And so the whole point here is Kathy Hochul, gives an example of violence against a synagogue in New York, and Seth Mandel just gave you a detailed list of other violence against. She was never able to find an example of Islamophobia or some kind of violence against a mosque. But she couldn't say in her speech that we're going to fight all of this horrible violence against houses of worship and specifically against synagogues. No, she had to tag in Islamophobia, even though there are no examples of violence against mosques.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating because you can't if you can't do the right thing, if you can't just say anti-Semitism full stop. Right. Just don't say it. Just leave us alone. And that was Seth's argument that he when he tweeted the piece, he said, if you can't fight Jew hatred without saying end Islamophobia, it would be better to just keep our names out of your mouth altogether and say nothing.
That's right. Keep our names out of your mouth. Yeah. It's so true. It reminds me of the day after Charlie Kirk was assassinated. And the best Democrats could muster is, well, I object to political violence of any kind. Yep. I'm against political violence against all sides.
All lives matter.
Right. Thank you. Yep. Thank you. Which I was told is something that, undermines the overriding message and the violence we see before our very eyes. The difference is, though, when you say all lives matter, oftentimes it was framed within the context of, listen, I think Black Lives Matter. Why aren't we more concerned about all of the crime we see in black communities where people are getting murdered by other black people? It seems Black Lives Matter only pertains to when a cop is involved, specifically a white cop. But this is an insidious little jujitsu that Democrats are attempting to do here in an election year because they know they've got a problem in the general public defending and rationalizing all of the Jew hatred that's out there.
Yeah, I mean, they have a problem. And it was interesting, after that Queens rally, the We Support Hamas rally, that's literally what they were yelling at.
They were literally chanting, "We support Hamas." We support Hamas. Listen, I'm glad that the veil is down.
Yeah, no, 100%. And so there was a lot of Democrats, including like Mamdani, who said, this is beyond the pale. Da, da, da. And Mamdani also said stuff about the fire bombings of the synagogue in Mississippi. But this is the logical next step of globalize the intifada, which is a phrase that he cannot muster an argument against.
Right.
But when it's a white 19-year-old blowing up a synagogue in Mississippi, suddenly he's got some thoughts.
Yeah, he does, but I think it's because he knows that he's on a different plane now politically. Let's not forget that when he was just Assemblymember Mamdani, he waited a full day after the October 7th massacre. When he finally put out a statement, it was a both-sides statement. Yeah. I abhor violence and terrorism of all kinds against Israelis and the Palestinians. It was what he couldn't bring himself to say that October 7th, full stop, was a horrific, evil massacre. Yeah. So anytime you're now, and you're right about all the tweets that came out from Democrats, but did you notice they were all kind of copy-paste tweets?
Yes, 100%.
Like somebody from J Street had sent out a memo saying, hey, you guys should probably condemn this. And so someone in the social media team copied and pasted it and hit send, and that was the extent of it. And here's Kathy Hochul saying, oh, yeah, I very much want to protect our houses of worship, our synagogues, and our mosques. Yep. Because, it's equal. Mm-hmm. It ain't equal. It ain't equal. Well done, Seth Mandel, for giving voice to so many voiceless. Like me, I have no voice in this.
Yeah, you're known for being quiet and demure.
You know what I mean. It is. I do. I've got some favorite writers out there who are like, damn it, I wish I had written that.
Yeah. Welcome to my life.
It's 5:15, WMAL traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives. In a moment, we're going to tell you about our very own Patrice Onwuka in the Oval Office yesterday, and it was her first grader who stole the show.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Well, our very own Patrice Onwuka was invited to an Oval Office signing ceremony yesterday. Now, the document that the president was signing, which frankly got lost in the mix here with all of the adorableness and cuteness from Patrice's first grader, the document was an order allowing public schools. The fact that this is even necessary, Bethany Mandel, tells you about the overreach from prior administrations meddling in how school districts and states are able to run their schools. It allows local school systems to offer low-fat and whole milk to their students. And I knew that they had gone to low-fat. I had no idea that they had moved to non-fat.
Yeah.
And they were not allowed. If they were getting federal money for school lunch programs, they were not allowed to offer anything but non-fat milk, which, by the way, is basically white water.
Yeah, it's water. Yeah. So during COVID, they were doing like free lunch giveaways for anyone. And so you could like pick up a box of food, and I did, and it was free food, and I'm enjoyed it very much.
Sure.
But
I mean, somebody was paying for it.
Yes, 100%. And they gave away the non-fat milk, and it was required. You had to take it. And I was like, but I'm not. We like fat in our house because fat is important.
We don't even give that to our dog.
Yeah. And so I was like, I don't know what to do with non-fat milk. And so many people kept turning it down that they made it a requirement. This is like this weird hang-up that I feel like the Trump administration is moving on within the federal government, that like, I don't know, it's like Big Dairy or something for decades decided that we all had to be drinking milk, and that was a requirement, but it had to not have any nutritional value whatsoever. So I first of all, just from a policy perspective, I love that the Trump administration is focusing on real food. Food.
Yes, it's wonderful. All right, so that's the ceremony that's happening there in the Oval. And as usual, the comms team, they put together, they wanted a good visual, so they invited certain families that the White House has relationships with to come and be a part of the picture. And that included our very own Patrice Onwuka, co-host of O'Connor and Company. She brought her two youngest, a first grader and I believe a third grader, maybe a second grader. We'll find out because Patrice is going to join us a little later.
How many kids does she have?
She has three.
So when we went to the White House and I had to choose between my children, who got to sit behind the president, let me tell you, it does not get harder.
It was like the Hunger Games in the Bethany house, yes. Well, they're doing the signing, and at some point, as the president is riffing and going back and forth with the kids, they start talking about milk, and Patrice's son, Jesse, volunteers that he knows how milk goes from the cow to your table. And he shared that story with the president. Take a listen.
In the first grade, I also know where does milk come from.
Good job. Where does it come from?
First, farmers milk it, and then next they put it into a coal tank, and then to take the germs out, they put it very hot, and then they put it back in the coal tank, and then they haul it to somewhere that is cold in a big refrigerator.
Well, that is unbelievable.
I'm going to give him a medal. Everybody, these guys want it. Let me tell you, politicians want it. I'm going to give that to you. Is that okay?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. That's beautiful.
He got one of those giant Trump 47 challenge coins, which are the size of a doorstop. It's amazing.
Can we just pause for a moment and just reflect on the fact that a first grader said the word hull? That's really impressive. That's that was amazing. From
and
start
he
to
included
finish.
the homogenization process, which is all, by the way, going to tick off all the raw milk people out there who are listening. But just leave it alone. He's talking about commercially produced milk. I think he may have gotten a tour of the Great South Mountain Creamery out there in out near the border, because they do the whole instruction there. Or he got that from his mom, who's pretty smart.
Smart.
Isn't that a great moment?
It was so
so you got to take your kids to that was the signing ceremony was that for homeschooling, or was that for
no, that was when they disbanded
sports?
the Department of Education.
Oh,
so so they wanted the representation, the wide representation. So my family were the DEI pick because my boys were wearing yarmulkes, and so but they didn't want too many yarmulkes. They didn't want it to look like the Jews were controlling Trump too much.
Well, they don't want it to look that way.
Right. So there was just like there was one there. Yeah. There was one there, but not too many. So I had to choose between my sons. And I looked at my boys, and I looked at my younger son, and he is my troublemaker. And I was like, if you make a face behind the president, I will end you.
Yes.
And he started crying, and I was like, okay, well, now you're crying. I can't put you behind the president now. And so I let my older son go, who was like not as keen to do it. He's kind of shy. He's not, whatever. But my younger son, I gave him a little too aggressive of a talking to right before I had to make the decision.
Yeah, but if he had made a face, that would have been a viral moment. It would have been amazing.
No,
and Trump would have loved it, by the way.
So that son, when we met Senator Orrin Hatch when he was a toddler, grabbed a gavel from his desk and assaulted him with it, and it like almost broke his kneecap. And so we have a history. And he's also kicked... who was the congressman in the wheelchair? Madison Cawthorn.
Oh, Madison Cawthorn, yeah.
He's kicked him in the face accidentally also. So we have a history of assaulting public servants.
Maybe it's probably best that it was our Patrice who got to bring her son to the Oval yesterday. Yes. What a moment. And we're so proud of her and Jesse and our show. And I also love the fact that, I don't know if you noticed, because when you watch the video, you're fixated on Patrice and her little boy. All the other parents at that moment, they're looking down at their kids saying, why can't you do that?
No.
Why can't you tell them they were, there was bitter jealousy going on. No, we're going to talk to Patrice about that, but we'll talk to her about the policy at play here, too, with whole milk, but also about the Proud Mama moment and Proud O'Connor and Company moment as well. She'll be joining us to talk about it at 7:35. Right now it's 5:24. Coming up, a huge decision from the Supreme Court yesterday, 7-2, thank you very much, allowing Republicans to sue over ballot counting laws and other voter fraud allegations. This is a game changer, and it corrects a lot of the issues from the 2020 election. I'll explain next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
5:37 now. Thanks for tuning into the 15th day of January edition of O'Connor and Company as we get you started the right way here. Informed, educated, activated, and hopefully entertained a bit. Coming up at 6:35, Hans-Von Spakovsky is going to give us his legal opinion, specifically as an election law expert on the Supreme Court decision. We're going to get into the details of it in like 20 seconds. Then at 7:05, Mignon Houston, deputy spokesperson for our State Department. 7:35, Patrice Onwuka about her moments in the Oval yesterday. And then at 8:05, KT McFarland on all things Iran and others. Oh, and Greenland. It's Larry O'Connor with Bethany Mandel. Good morning, Bethany.
Good morning. I just got a notification that one of my children bought a Kindle book, and I'm trying to figure out if they are awake right now. That's what I'm doing.
All right. Well, you go to it. I'll talk about yesterday's Supreme Court decision. 7-2 decision that says, yes, a Republican candidate, and by the way, it's not specific to Republicans, but it was Republican politicians who brought the case, said that a political candidate for office does, in fact, have standing for a lawsuit against ballot counting laws and other potential voter fraud issues having to do with an election. Now, this is huge. You hear all the time about the 2020 presidential election that every single legal challenge brought up about the ballot counting and other inappropriate handlings of ballots and all the other things that happened in various states in the 2020 election, that every single legal challenge the Trump administration lost in court, right? Every single one of them was thrown out. Well, the vast majority, if not all of them, were in fact thrown out because of standing. They claimed that the candidate didn't have standing to bring the lawsuit. It never made any sense. If you're running for office and you believe that you did not win the election because of irregular voter law application or irregular handling of ballots or other things and you want to sue and say, hold on a minute, this election was not done properly and I want it heard in court, this should be illegal. But you were told that you as the candidate did not have standing to argue against those laws. It never made any sense. And yesterday the Supreme Court validated that notion. They voted 7-2 to allow a Republican congressman in Illinois to challenge the law that allows for the counting of ballots 2 weeks after Election Day, which on the face of it is outrageous that law even passed muster in the first place. Mm-hmm. But the only way those laws pass muster is if they can withhold a legal challenge. And when the legal challenge was brought, the judge says, sorry, you don't have standing. If the candidate who lost the election due to the law doesn't have standing, who does have standing, for crying out loud?
I love that there were 2 justices that dissented on this.
Yes, and who were they?
Kenji Brown Jackson and Sonia Sotomayor.
That's right.
Of course. I wonder what the limiting principle is on what they're willing to dissent on. There is none. There is no ceiling to that. But I thought, otherwise it was basically unanimous of the sane people on the Supreme Court. It was unanimous.
To be fair, the way it worked was there was a 6-3 decision that Kagan was in the dissent of, but then Coney Barrett wrote a concurring decision that Kagan agreed with, and that's how we got to 7-2 here. And Roberts tries to do that often. He'll often say, all right, is there a concurring decision that you can go with just so we can boost these numbers up a bit?
Right.
And Roberts, by the way, the Chief Justice, wrote the decision as well, which tells you that he found this to be a very compelling argument, which is fascinating considering the fallout of the 2020 election. Again, I want to reiterate, you go back and look at it, almost all of those legal decisions against Trump and against other entities that challenged the way that the ballots were handled and counted and the laws were applied during the 2020 recount efforts, the vast majority of them were thrown out because of standing issues. So this blows that up now and reorients what should be an obvious logical conclusion. A hat tip to Tom Fitton at Judicial Watch.
I was just about to do that.
Oh, go ahead.
No. Yeah. So this is, not to sound really nerdy, but this is why people donate to organizations like this, for moments like this. Right. It can be hard a lot of times when you're donating to entities that don't have really tangible, you're not delivering a meal, there's no goods and services being exchanged.
I totally get what you're saying.
But judicial, this is something that their donors should feel very happy about. And so Tom Fitton said this is the most important Supreme Court election law ruling in a generation. I don't sit up at night thinking about what is the most important election law. But he does, and that's why that's his job, and it's not my job. Too many courts have denied candidates the standing to challenge unlawful election rules, such as the outrageous ballots that arrive after Election Day. American citizens should be concerned about election integrity and should celebrate the Supreme Court
Amen.
victory.
And it's funny, whenever I have Fitton on, I always plug judicialwatch.org, no matter who's sitting in the White House, no matter what party, they really do oversight. Yeah. And we wouldn't know about Hillary Clinton's emails if it weren't for Judicial Watch. I mean, we just think about the stuff that they do get done. So amen. And great job, Tom, friend of the program. He's in studio a lot with us. Hans von Spakovsky is going to join us to expand on this at 6:35 because I'm an optimistic guy. I'm a glass half full guy. But I do see one danger here with this decision. I am concerned about one thing, and I will raise that issue with Hans coming up then. That's at 6:35. Right now it's 5:40. You're not going to
just say it now? You're not going to say it now?
Well, sure. I'll
no, I'm just
more.
teasing you.
No, I'm worried the Democrats will now exploit this and basically challenge every single election and tie up the results in court because they exploit things like this. Yeah. And I can see Mark Elias frothing at the mouth now.
There's a hanging Chad that agrees with
you. Exactly. It's 5:43.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
You know, in most cities, Bethany Mandel, the mayor lives in his house, right, or her house. Like for here in D.C., Muriel Bowser lives in her townhouse that she owns because she's just a mayor, right? I mean, most mayors, in fact, I'm pretty sure in every city in America, there is not an official residence for the mayor because they're a mayor. They just live in their house. They live in their condo, whatever, right? Not New York City. In New York City, they have a mansion, Gracie Mansion. And since the early 40s, going back to Fiorella LaGuardia, the mayor of New York has moved into and lived in Gracie Mansion, a lovely house on the East End Avenue, East 88th Street in New York. Beautiful. Goes back to I believe, the 19th century Gracie Mansion. What's strange, though, is that New York now has a communist as their mayor, man of the people, right? Famously lives in a one-bedroom apartment in Queens. He certainly wouldn't join the bourgeoisie and drop his proletariat bona fides and move into a mansion. Now, would he? Would he?
No. So I before we start this segment, and I just want to signal my displeasure with the conversation that we're about to have.
Yeah, we're going to get detailed here, and I apologize, but it's in the news, and we have to have it. So I first have to point out the hypocrisy of the fact that, yes, in fact, Zohran Mamdani is going to live in Gracie Mansion, and he and his wife have moved into a mansion. So think about that, a communist living in a mansion. Boy, you know, some animals really are more equal than others. Good for you, Zohran. I'm happy. I'm proud for you. I guess it is in keeping with being a commie because it is free government housing. So why wouldn't you take it? Okay. Here's the problem, though. He has now announced that he wants to make a few modifications. Now, first of all, let me just point out, Michael Bloomberg, who was mayor of New York for 2 terms, he did not live in Gracie Mansion. He lived in his Upper East Side apartment because, you know, he's a gajillionaire. But he did spend $7 million renovating Gracie Mansion for official functions. So he wouldn't live there, but he'd go there for official functions and parties and, you know, dignitaries and things like that. Mamdani's going to move there, and apparently the $7 million that was just spent to renovate Gracie Mansion wasn't good enough. He wants to make his own modifications, specifically to the bathrooms.
See, everyone that's listening, as soon as you got to that word, they're like, I see where Bethany was coming with this.
Yes.
She was
Bethany,
right.
Zohran Mamdani wants to modify the bathrooms in historic Gracie Mansion. He wants to install bidets.
So, Larry, do you want to explain to some of our listeners who might not be familiar with a bidet? What is a bidet?
We have a very intelligent and erudite worldly audience, and they all know what a bidet is.
It washes
I will
your
never
bum.
forget as a child the first time I encountered a bidet.
It's a bum shower.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah. Of course, when I was 7 years old and saw a bidet, I thought it was a drinking fountain.
Oh no, Larry!
My father quickly corrected me of that.
Oh, this is why.
Before it got really ugly. Yeah.
So I would like everyone who's listening right now to tweet us and tell. Just like I'm going to put up a poll. Like, do you wish this segment ever happened? Was Bethany correct?
This is important. It's in the news, and it also tells you about the cultural shift going on in New York.
No, so I actually have a thought on this that is serious.
Yeah.
This is the obnoxious upper crust nonsense that liberals do. Like I'm too civilized for toilet paper. I'm too worldly. I need a bidet to wipe my bum, and it is so obnoxious because it is the stupidest stuff.
It really is,
and it's just really irks me.
Oh, it's like fake classy. Oh,
yes.
Look how classy they
Yes.
are. They have a bidet. It's like, first of all, most people that I know that have installed bidets, and I don't know a lot of them.
Yeah, it's like, who are these people?
Well, I shouldn't even say it. Whenever I've experienced here in America, this is kind of a Euro thing, right? Don't they have? And in Japan, they've got those automatic, weird toilet seats that have bidet functions to them that are all Bluetooth programmed and the really weird stuff. but the classic sort of French bidet that sits next to the commode, I always assume that nobody actually ever uses it. It's just there to say, oh, look, they have a bidet.
It's your show bidet.
Right. And I remember asking my mother once, it's like, so who actually uses a bidet? And she just said, trashy women.
Really?
Yes, well, because they need extra cleansing.
Oh, my God. This segment really went off the rails.
Yeah, sorry. That's just, I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that's what my mother told me, and it explains a lot about myself. So there you go. Zoran Mamdani, and think what you will about the First Lady of New York, but I can tell you she'll be getting a new bidet installed at the people's expense, no doubt.
Of course.
It's 5:53.